Hi everyone, happy Sunday. So, we are coloring a page from Whimsy Girls Celebrate the Holidays by Hannah Lynn. This is titled Blushing Bride, and I don't know what it is about this book in particular, but sometimes I would see some of the pictures and get an idea immediately. And for some reason, I saw this picture and I thought of Lydia Dietz in the wedding scene in the movie Beetlejuice. And I was like, and that stuck with me for a long time. And I never got to the point where I was going to actually color it up until recently. And then with the alphabet color tag, the letter for the month we have is B. So I thought, what better time to do this than this month for Beetlejuice? Though the title of the picture is Blushing Bride, so that would have worked too. But anyway, if you are not familiar with Beetlejuice, it was a movie that was released in 1988. It has Michael Keaton and Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin and Winona Ryder. And basically, what is the synopsis here? The spirits of a deceased couple are harassed by an unbearable family that has moved into their home, and they hire a malicious spirit to drive them out. So, I would say probably most people are familiar with the movie, at least what it's about, whether or not they've watched it or not. It was directed by Tim Burton, so if you're familiar with anything Tim Burton has done, it fits right into the Tim Burton genre of movies as being a little odd, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. However, um, I didn't like it as much, I guess, when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I like the movie a lot more. And it wasn't something I'd seen recently, but sometimes just certain scenes for movies and shows stick with you. I did a picture like this, I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before. I took a Magical Fairies picture from Marjorie Sarnett, and I created a play on the Hocus Pocus Sanderson sisters. And I had a lot of fun with that one. I've wanted to do something similar since. I have another idea. It's actually another Hannah Lynn picture for a movie that I absolutely loved. And but this one came up last year, and so what you see me doing here is actually drawing in stuff. I know. I'm using a pencil and then a Micron pen. Basically, if you look at Lydia's dress from Beetlejuice, it goes up to her neck, and then it has like a sheer piece panel all down her arms. It was the late 80s, people. It's a bright red dress, but it had like this little design on the chest, and then it had the little ruffled kind of choker to it. So that's what I'm adding in right here. The arms, actually, the arms of the dress look a little different, but for the purposes of this picture, it was easiest to just do the little straps. Now, for the dress, I'm using my beloved Delusions shimmer paint, the Postbox Red. And that is what we're going to fill in first. This is another mixed media picture. I have been really into using different things lately. You're going to see me using this paint. We are going to use and I said them wrong the other day, CRBRON, so CR Braun watercolors for her veil. And then markers for the rest of the picture, and I think just a touch of white pastel, the Mugno pastels for her face, because I get her skin tone a little too dark. So Lydia Dietz in the movie is the teenager of the family that moves in, and she is very goth. She is very, very goth, and at one point, she is set to marry Beetlejuice. I'm not going to talk the whole synopsis of the movie. I don't want to give away spoilers. If anybody's, I mean, at this point, if you haven't seen it, then, it's been long enough. But she's set to marry Beetlejuice in a scene, and so she's wearing this just bright red dress with a bright red veil. Her hair is the spiky, just black. She has that white makeup that really uh, familiar look for 80s goth kids. Um, Actually surprised her dress wasn't black, but I guess they thought that was too much black when they were putting together the movie idea. So that's what I went with here. I can't make her hair really spiky like it is in the movie, but I figured again, I took a few little artistic liberties with to work with what I had. So again, I don't know why that jumped out at me. It's not a movie I see all the time. It's just, again, maybe even movies you watched when you were a kid. There are just certain iconic movies and scenes that just stick in your head, and I guess that's what stuck in mine. um, so my idea, of course, was to do the red dress and do the actual bride like Lydia Deetz. And then for her flowers, I don't think she has any actual flowers in the movie. But for the flowers, what I figured I would do is color them like Beetlejuice's suit is colored, and just the iconic colors that you think of. The suit he's wearing is like this old leisure suit that's kind of a old dusty maroon looking color, like red violet. So I went with the roses with that, and then that kind of lime green, and then the black and white stripes. He wears a black and white striped suit for the majority of the film, so that and then he's got like mold and stuff on his face because he's dead. Um, I just took the colors you kind of consider classic Beetlejuice type colors for her bouquet. The background I kept very dark. Like in the scene, the walls are like a really dark blue, so I tried to mimic that. There's some little bright pops of, kind of color. Again, I try to mimic that as well, and you'll see that here in a bit. So, um, I am a big movie and TV show trivia nerd, and I do have some interesting facts about Beetlejuice. But we're going to save that for the end. So when I run out of things to talk about, we'll cover that. Now I'm going to put timestamps in this, so on certain topics. So if you don't want to hear me talking about something, or maybe you just want to hear the Beetlejuice facts today, you're not going to hurt my feelings. That's why I put the chapters in and stuff in the description, so you can go check that out. But yes, this is my first picture for the year-long color-along Alphabet Color 2022B. And yeah, I don't know. I thought this would be fun. And this didn't turn out to be a super complicated picture. I mean, I used a lot of different mediums, but it actually went fairly quickly. Didn't have to turn I didn't have to turn the clip speed on this to like super fast. You guys actually get to see me, work a lot on this picture. So I do actually I use gel pens in this as well. I with painting, of course, if it's opaque paint, it's going to want to go over the lines. As you can see, I'm trying to avoid doing that as much as possible, but I do come back later and use a gel pen to go back over these lines. If I hadn't used a gel pen, I would have used the Micron pen to go back over the lines just to bring them back to their original bold color, and that seems to work well even over the paint. Now the Postbox Red, kind of like the black in the paint series, doesn't seem as shimmery as some of the other paints, and it may just be the particular color, but it's still a really pretty color. So, all right, so hope everyone is having a good weekend. Mine has been rather quiet. I actually have been trying to work ahead a little bit on videos and content for videos because I know Monday and Tuesday are going to be really busy at work. I actually have Tuesday's footage shot. I just need to pull it all together for the demo that I have. So um, I've been coloring more, I guess, but I've noticed in the last few weeks I'm coloring more, spending more time on pictures. Like I'm spending more time on each individual picture rather than just doing a whole bunch of quick color by number pages while I'm sitting on the couch. It seems I'm really on a mixed media kick right now, and putting in some real time on a number of pictures. So that's just, again, when it comes to coloring, it kind of hits different depending on what I need it for. um, and I guess in this mode, I'm kind of in more of a creative mode than I am an anxious mode. So that is, you know, why I guess my types of pictures have changed. Plus, I found a computer game that I like a lot, uh, that I've been playing in the evening, so I haven't been doing as painting, as much coloring on the couch as I normally do. So, what's been going on with me for the last few weeks? I was going back to try to remember when the last time I did a coloring chat was, and it was like the 16th, so I guess it's been more than a few weeks. But not a ton. I kind of, because of COVID and because coming back after the break and trying to get back into work, this month I tried to make it as quiet as possible. I didn't want a whole lot going on just because I was trying to get back into, I guess, the normal groove of things. And oh, here are those watercolors I was talking about. It's a 48 set. I am going to be using them in multiple pictures this month. So I'm actually using them again in Tuesday's video. One thing I'll say for these right off the bat is that, and these were just ones I found. It was just a watercolor palette I found on, here I start off with a water brush. Is this the one? I think I used the water brush here, but in my other picture that I do, I end up switching to an actual watercolor, like just regular brush. I got these mostly just to try out a watercolor palette, and so far they're okay, but like if you use them for the purpose that most people use watercolors, which is to create really transparent layers and use a lot of water and not very much pigment, I think these are probably okay for just a starter set to try them out. But I have found, because I like to have more vibrant color and maybe use a little less water and use layers, they do have a little bit of a chalky feel to the top of them. Tuesday's picture this one I put on some pretty thick layers. I put on this one layer. This is a medium red from the palette. And after I put it on, and you'll see, I realized it looks more pink, which I do want it to look a little sheer, and that's fine. That's why I'm using the watercolor. But it didn't look really red to me, so I ended up going over it a couple more times to deepen that color. And one of the things I noticed is that the more pigment I put on there, it has a little bit of a chalky feel to it on the paper. I'm like petting the paper now. Not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. I ended up using it on my picture for Tuesday. I backed off because in that one I really was looking for a lighter wash, I guess, and it didn't seem like it did it as much. Now, I say that I have no problems going over it with pencil. I don't do it in this picture, but I do go over it with pencil in Tuesday's picture, and it did just fine. So I think these are fine. I if you're just starting out and you're just trying to play and you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on like a set of Daniel Smith watercolors or something, I think these are good to just try out. But as I continue to do watercoloring, I will probably look into some, I don't know, a little bit better quality. I have some other watercolors to try. I have some watercolor in tubes that I need to convert to an actual tray. That I think I have some Arteza ones, and then I have some other random ones I can't remember offhand. But I also have like an Arteza set that's already just, it's like a student grade one to play with. So I have some different ones. Then I have like my Paul Rubin and glitters, and those are great. The Arteza iridescent or metallic ones are also really nice. So I'm just actually using all these watercolors that have been sitting here forever. I'm finally starting to use them and continue to play with them. So this is my first real attempt with the CR Braun watercolors. Golly. I didn't realize how bruised my hand looked. I guess sometimes Leroy wants to try to play around, and he plays rough. Poor guy, he was crying this morning because he wanted Winry to play with him, and Winry's like a third of his size, and Winry does not play with the other cats anyway. Not even if they were her size. And the thing is, he rolls her and he chases her, and he's not meaning to hurt her, but she of course sounds very dramatic about it and upset. And then he gets upset because she won't play with him. And I was telling Brent this morning. I said, I almost wish we had another younger cat that liked to play rough and tumble, and he would have somebody to play with, but there's never any guarantee, especially with cats, that their personalities are going to get along. Um, like him and Maggie really didn't get along well because they both were kind of like alpha cats, and I have a feeling if the cat's a rough and tumble kind of cat like that, he's probably gonna want to be alpha cat too. So, um, unfortunately, I just don't. And again, that would require getting another cat, and we're not. That is not something we want to do right now. But so I do feel bad for him. I try to play with him. I try to help him burn up some of his energy, giving him kicker toys, and he wants to race around the house, and he wants me to chase him sometimes and stuff, and I'll sit there and play with him, but even with me, sometimes he gets too rough. So I do feel bad for the poor guy when it's like that. But overall, though, the cats are doing well. As you can see here, this is what I was talking about. As it's drying, it says medium red, but it really does look more like a pink. And I wasn't for that. So I ended up putting 2 or 3 layers on here. Okay, yeah. Here I come with the second layer on this. And this paper did fine. I learned with the Tuesday's picture that in this case, I probably should have just used a watercolor brush like I did with that one. I had a lot more success. But this did alright. And oddly enough, as long as I let it dry between layers, I mean, the paper did fine. I didn't have any issue. With the straight watercolors, I feel like I had less problems with the page getting crinkly than I did with, like using the gel sticks or gelatos or, things like that. So, yeah, I'll continue to demo. I think I'll continue to demo these watercolors this month. These will probably be the primary ones I use unless I need something specific like glitters or metallics. And these will probably be the main ones I use this month. And you'll have a couple demos of them, including Tuesday. So again, just after messing with them for a few pictures, they seem like perfectly serviceable watercolors. They do have a little bit of a chalky feel when you really are using the pigment. You really have to wet them down to pull the pigment off the pan. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. They do have some metallics there at the very bottom if you see. I did swatch those, and those looked really nice. I actually need to try to play around. I need a really good gold, and this set might actually have a pretty good shimmery gold. It's like a shimmer gold, a shimmer silver, and a shimmery blue. So, but no, what I was saying about the cats, they all are doing pretty well. Hang on just a moment. I got this morning and like just sinuses and allergies everywhere for days. But and it's allergies. I have not been out of the house. Ugh. I was out of the house on Wednesday, but I don't have any other symptoms, and this is just flat out sinus drainage when I first get up. So I know this is allergies for sure. But no, they're all doing well. Like I said, Leroy's been a little quiet the last few weeks. Because I haven't felt real well physically, and just because work's been so busy, I haven't had a chance. Of course, the cats, when they want to play, it's always during the day when I have to work, and so I haven't been able to play with him as much as I normally do, and so I think that's bummed him out a little too, which is not good. Um, Finally got a case of the food that he was eating really well, and now he won't eat it. But in the mornings, he will eat the other food, diet food he is supposed to eat. So I guess it's better than nothing. At night, he gets a little bit of fancy feast, and then he's eating at least a prescription dry food that is probably better than anything else. He has crystals in his urine and like debris in his bladder, and he's supposed to be on special diets to help minimize that and minimize the chance that he's going to block. And what is happening here? Oh, okay. I got to edit out this part. I think I forgot to turn this off. Yep. Here I am switching to another book, and y'all are like, "What the heck is going on?" Okay, well, I'm not going to edit this part out cuz then the audio won't match up. So, I've forgotten to stop this piece of recording. I actually was going to I have I'm not going to use that footage. I actually was adding pencil to this picture, but anyway, okay, we're back to this one. It's dry. Um, I think I do come back and add a little bit around where the hair is at to darken it, but for the most part, I was pleased with that second layer. I think that did just fine. I'm not going to do anything fancy with the veil and the dress. That shimmer paint's really difficult to go over with other things. I guess because it's not a flat paint, it's shiny, and so that was going to be left as is. And I didn't really want to mess with pencil on this picture, and but I think pencil would have went over fine on the watercolor on her veil. I just didn't really feel like it needed it. So here I'm going with that weird kind of dark blue navy background. I use two Copic markers and just kind of smush them together just to give it a little bit of a color variance in the background, if that's the word I'm looking for. I've been trying to use my Copics a lot more lately. When I'm at my desk doing this stuff, they're right in front of me in their little trays, so it's just easier to grab them. One of the things I think I'm going to do this year, actually I may go ahead and start doing in February, but it's just going to be a few because I've already spent my budget this month. Oh, those Korean coloring books, the ones with the expensive shipping. I got two, and it was like that was my budget for the month. But I've been wanting them for a long time, so I finally got them, and you will see those later this month. But I think one thing I'm going to start investing in is refills. So I have the very first set of the Copic sketch, set A or whatever. My very first summer I was coloring, I splurged with the 300 something dollars to get this marker set. And I got, I think it's 72 markers in it. And as you can see, this was 3 years ago, four, I can't quite remember, but it has been a long time, and a lot of them still have plenty of marker to them. However, they are all starting to get to the point where they are drying out a little. And so I think my goal this year is to start working on refills for the set I have. And then once I have that, start actually, I may look into buying just the next set as a whole or buying them individually. It really depends on which is the cheapest option for me. I do have a lot of budget-friendly markers, but I've noticed when it comes to like backgrounds like this, actually one of these started going dry towards the end, and I was really nervous that I wasn't going to be able to finish the picture with that marker, and it just barely held on till the end. But when I'm doing big backgrounds like this and stuff, or I'm in the middle of coloring something and the marker goes dry, I do have, my backups are limited, and the similarities of colors across marker brands are limited. So I figure what I'll basically use my Copics for, other than just regular, regular coloring like like I do with them, is they will be my workhorses for big areas that, if I run out of the marker, I can simply go refill it. So I think that's going to be what I use them for. And yes, I know people don't like using Copic markers on Amazon paper because it doesn't do a lot for the tips and this and that. But you know what? These markers have been sitting here for years. It's use it or lose it, and I'm not going to sit there and spend all the time trying to scan images onto better paper. That's just wear and tear on my printer. And so at the end of the day, the printer is going to be an expensive replacement whenever that happens. So it's like, at the end of the day, do I just want to buy new tips for my markers if I need them, or do I want to buy a whole new printer? So for me, it makes more sense to just use these markers. And like I said, I don't have any others that are refillable right now. You can see where it's starting to give me some trouble here. Lisa's Coloring Corner had some markers that she was swatching that are refillable. Let me see if I can find it. Artify, is that right? Is that what they're called? There's supposed to be a cheaper alternative that are refillable. And I'm trying to find them and I can't, of course. Anyway, I think they're Artify or something. Fairly expensive, but not like as expensive as Copics, and they are refillable. My question is whether or not they yellow through paper, and that is something I'm going to ask Lisa, and if anybody else uses those, that is the thing I really want to know. I know Arteza makes markers that are refillable. Do they even have the refills available, though? Last time I checked, they didn't even have refills available. And the original Everblend markers do yellow through the paper. And I got to say, I love the colors from my Everblend marker set. Like, the colors are fantastic. And if it wasn't the fact that they yellowed through to the paper on the other side, that's my biggest beef with them. And the fact that they didn't have refills available for a long time, and I don't even know if they do now. So that's the reason those aren't even being considered. But I think at this point, I'm just going to, like I said, first focus on getting refills for the markers I do have, and then focus on acquiring new colors. So, And then in the meantime, I could just, and here I am off a little off screen. So I ended up using, and I'll try to remember the colors I used and I'll put them in the description, but I'm pretty sure this was just a basic blue violet from the Copic. And there's like a little fence and stuff in the background, but I just kind of leave it alone. I didn't want to make the background black because her hair was going to be black. But I wanted it dark enough that it just wasn't really noticeable. And it kind of went with that dark blue and purple kind of background that's in the house in the picture. So here I am testing out and figuring out what I'm going to be using for the bouquet. As you can see, I did grab one of my Arteza markers. I've pulled all the images out of the book, so they all go into this binder that has sheets, plastic sheeting in it. So I'm not worried. It's not gonna, I don't have to worry about it yellowing the pages around it. So I do play with this a lot. The set A of the Copic sketch does have some really good marker combos in there, but like in this case I used, I think, fuchsia and red violet, and they were so close that I wasn't really getting a darker shading like I wanted. So you'll see me play with it a bit, go over it again, and then I think I finally come in with like a gray that actually works out perfect and gives me what I need. So as much as I've used markers and as much as I've outlined and blended with them and stuff, I mean, I'm still learning with them as well. That's why I never say, I'm never going to call myself an expert on anything, because I'm always learning, even with stuff that I've used. You know, markers are probably the thing I'm most familiar with, and even with them, I feel like I'm still learning. So, but let's see, we were talking about the cats. Yeah, fortunately, everybody seems to be staying pretty healthy. Leroy had a bit of an upset stomach because of the food issues with trying to get him the food he's supposed to eat versus the food he wants to eat. But he has been doing much better this past week. Winry just refuses to eat any sort of kidney food. So I don't know what state her kidneys are in right now. I'm trying to think. She went in, she had a UTI in October, and I think they did blood work. If they wouldn't do it I don't know if they want to do 3 months or 6 months. So I actually probably should call them next week and check in, because if they want to do 3 months, then she's due up. But the more important thing to me is that she eats, because she is a tiny, tiny little waif of a kitty. She's always been. She eats like a bird all the time, always has. So for her, eating, regardless of what it is really kind of more important, but it still stresses me out, you know. So yeah, a few of these, the leaves, the little puffy baby's breath type things that come out of this, I just, was playing around with the black and white. Like I did some dots, and then all the little dangly plant stuff at the bottom, I actually do the black and white stripes on. So this was, like I said, and that thing right there, that I had no idea what to do with that. You can see me, I stopped, and then I was like, nope, I'll have to come back to that. I ended up putting stripes on it that looked okay, but I still, that was probably the one part of the picture I just didn't really like, and I didn't know what to do with. But it turned out alright. So we do have a new Not My Kitty that's been sighted this week. Really chunky tiger striped cat. Looks a lot like my cat, combination of my the cats I had, Quixote and Tiger. But he's so chunky, I suspect he is an indoor cat that has gotten loose. I've been trying to keep an eye on social media to see if anybody posts anything, and so far nobody has posted anything. I hope to God he's not another drop off, because I will hit the roof if he is. I think he's coming from across the street where Wesley comes from. He just hasn't usually come over here before, but he is now. And I've only seen him a few times this week. I'm trying not to stress too much about it. We have had some cats show up for a couple weeks and then they go on. Like I said, they probably go back home. My guess is they go back home. Um, and they're just cats that got loose or something. So, and he looks very, very well fed. So, again, if I could have gotten a hold of him already and posted about him, I would have. But I haven't been able to get out there and get a hold of him. He, the few times I've seen him, he'll look at me through the door. I don't think he's super scared, but it's hard to tell. I just, each time I've seen him, I haven't had the opportunity to try to go out there and see if he's friendly or not. So, we'll see. We'll see how things go. Like I said, it may take a few weeks, but I just, like I said, hopefully it's usually it's unusual to see one crop up in the middle of winter like this. When I see them, usually it's in the spring or the fall, when they, some of them get roaming around a little. And so, cross your fingers. He's just temporary, and he'll go back home. Um, trying to think anything else. No, they're all Big Air's. I'm having trouble getting Big Air to lose weight again because the food that he was eating that was working great, I can't ever find anymore. So we've been having to go back to the old school Friskies, and he's gained a little bit of weight back, and he definitely didn't need that. But again, it's just I I the cat food shortage thing's just getting real old. Um, that's been something that's been a consistent problem for months and months. And anybody with pets, it's not just cat food, I'm sure, but like other pet food and stuff, it's been a problem. So here you can see me going over with the red violet to try to see if I could get it to shade, and it just wasn't accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish. So I'll do it again with a gray in a minute because I get irritated. Um, as far as me, like I said, I've been trying to keep things quiet this month. We've really limited how often we leave the house because we do not want to get sick. Um, and I did buy some N95s from, and I'll put it in the description again, a site. It's called projectn95.org. One of my problems with Amazon and masks is that I don't ever feel confident that they're legitimate masks. And so this site actually only shows like official approved masks, and has other things on there too. But I had found these, they look weird. They're the duckbill ones, and they actually have straps that go around your head, which gives you a tighter fit. Doesn't do much for my looks, like my hair looks crazy, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Um, I'm more concerned with how well they work, and they are legitimate N95 masks. So, um, having those was one of the reasons that I agreed. My brother asked if I wanted to go to Nashville has a symphony. The facility is called the Schermerhorn, and we've went before. They do really cool events where they'll do like video game or movie scores, and they have like a big screen where they'll show scenes from the movie or scenes from the video games while they're playing, and then they also have a choir right behind them, and it's like I've been to the symphony before just to listen and enjoy the music, but this is a little bit more of an immersive experience. And being a video game nerd and stuff, it's a lot of fun. They've done Harry Potter and Star Wars and stuff too. Um, we went to quite a few. I went to a Zelda one that was great, and then a Pokemon one that was good too. This one they were doing the Final Fantasy VII remake, the music from the original, and then some of the new stuff that they've created. And apparently, this was supposed to happen last year, but because of everything going on, they had to postpone it. And he's like, well, masks are required, and let me tell you, around here it is hard to. It's one of the reasons I don't go to any events is I'm not going to be in a room packed full of people without some basic protections happening across the board. And you can disagree with me all day you want, all you want, but you can go do that on another channel. This is me, and this is my channel, and that's how I feel about it. Um, but he said masks were required, and then when I looked, they even required negative tests or vaccination cards, and a lot of that was because of the actual orchestra. I mean, that's pretty high risk, and the choir. That's a pretty high risk environment when you have people, blowing air into instruments and singing. Those are areas that's all considered high risk anyway, because you're actually more so blowing particulates into the atmosphere. And so I was like, oh wow, this is definitely not something they do where I live. So I was like, sure, yeah, no, this sounds great. And so my husband didn't really feel like going, so me and my brother went, and it was a lot of fun. And I was shocked because even the orchestra had masks on. Obviously, not the people that were playing, like the horn section and stuff, but everybody else had them on. The choir had them on. They had a guy that there's like a solo song. They had a singer come out for that. I was wearing one. Could hear them perfectly clearly. There wasn't any issue with it at all. People, there were people dressed to the nines. There were people cosplaying, but the one consistent thing is that nobody was acting obnoxious about it. I think all of us were just so glad to actually be out at an event where we felt that was relatively low risk, that nobody wanted to like rock the boat. So it was really nice. I would be doing a lot more if it was an environment like that. So I told TJ, I was like, if they're doing any others during this season, let me know. And I'm down for it. So I'll do anything I can to support them. And but it was a lot of fun. It was so cold though. It was like single digit wind chill that night. And my knees, I walked more than I usually do anyway, but like my knees and that extra cold gave me grief for the rest of the weekend. Oh, I forgot to put a blotter page behind that. Whoops. So I think I used like either a cool gray 9 or a warm gray 9, and then used the black on her hair just to give it a little definition, so it just wasn't solid black. So the skin tone's kind of where I went a little weird because, and you're just seeing the water page behind it. I was trying to find a very, very light skin tone. I actually went with a 0.5 warm gray, which I've used for like skulls and stuff before, because it just gives you like a really nice pale look. This would have been fine, but I was trying to find a way to outline it, and that's where I started getting the warmer skin tones, and then that's where that went a little off kilter. As with all of the Lynn pictures I do, I usually come in with this black Pitt artist pen to re-outline the eyelashes and the eyes and everything, just because it gives it a little bit extra pop. Plus, it helps me fill in the part of the eye, the inside part of the eye, so that I can just come in with the color like that, and then leave that little part white. That's the way I like to do the eyes in her books. So, but yeah, no, that was fun. Let's see. I have a new therapist. Mine went back to school. She wants to eventually become, I guess, whatever the equivalent is of a therapist that can prescribe medications. So she wanted to go back to school, but it is a really aggressive curriculum, and she can't really work during it. So she recommended a new therapist that had just started there for me, and she is super nice. I like her a lot. She she seems right on the level with a lot of things that I have anxieties about and stuff. Like, I feel comfortable talking to her about stuff. I don't. What's what? I guess this ties in with what I was just talking about. A lot of who I am as a person doesn't necessarily mesh with a lot of viewpoints and where I live. Like, I would say I am a blue dot in a very red area. Um, and so things like therapists and doctors and stuff can be an issue for me depending on, what I'm talking about or what I'm doing. If they're very conservative, that may not mesh with what I need. If that makes any sense. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying they're not good therapists or whatever. It's just it's not something that works for me. Here I am trying to go back over these. It was too harsh a line, so I went back over with a Copic, like eggshell or something, and then it turned too dark. So I come back and fix that later. Here I am using an acrylic paint pen in like a light blue. I wanted to go over the edges of the tree to kind of create that weird, like I said, that background. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like really dark blues, and then there's like little slashes of lighter colors, and so that's kind of what I was using the greenery of the willow tree to kind of create that effect, I guess, if that makes any sense. But uh no, I mean, me and her mesh very well in regards to that. I still don't know how I feel about it, just because the other therapist I had for a long time, and she's closer to my age. This lady is a little bit older. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm gonna give it a few months, and we're gonna see. She seems perfectly nice, but in terms of how helpful this is gonna be, I don't know. We'll have to see. She may be kind of fresh in regards to seeing people, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I did go finally Wednesday and get, it's called a calcium coronary score. When I went to the heart doctor in December, and they were talking about, I can't remember the name of it now, but basically I was having heart palpitations. He wanted to rule out stuff, and I had had a cousin younger than me that had just passed from a massive heart attack on my dad's side of the family, and so on both sides of my family I have heart issues. So the calcium coronary score, it kind of looks like a CT scan machine. It looks, I guess, at your arteries and the buildup in like the uh, plaque buildup and stuff, and gives you a percentage. I had to turn the page here, and then of course I was partially off screen. By the way, I'm using the black red Divical dual metallic pen. These always end up looking way more red than blue, and so I thought it would be a nice touch for outlining the veil and then the parts of the dress that I was talking about earlier. But it assigns a risk, basically a heart attack risk, based on what it sees in your arteries and stuff like that. And like, the higher the percentage, obviously the higher the risk. And with my family history, I was worried that just through pure genetics, it was going to be bad. But they called me Friday and told me the score was 0. So that's great, which means I don't really have any sort of plaque buildup that it could see in my arteries or anything. So that's great news. I'm really happy about that. So I meet with the other doctor in the group next Friday to go over my results. We're also going over the results of my Holter monitor. So at this point, it's not due to like any sort of heart attack risk per se, like you would typically expect. But my concern now is there's just something weird about the electrical parts of my heart, like, or structural possibly. It's not anything like you typically will worry about, like cholesterol and stuff. It's my cholesterol numbers have always been normal. Now it's more of a concern that there's either something structurally or electrically kind of off about my heart, and that's what the Holter monitor is supposed to help show. So we will see. I When he upped the verapamil that I'm taking, that seemed to get rid of the palpitations for a long time. I actually hadn't really felt them for the better part of a month, but I have noticed just in the last few weeks, in the evenings, it's always in the evenings, like around 3 to 5, I am feeling them just a touch. So I don't know what's going on there. His theory is whatever it was called, PVC, that was it, PVCs. Basically, the nodes in my heart are firing off early, firing off a beat early on, and then my heart stops for a second. Not doesn't stop, but it pauses for a second to get back on that regular rhythm when it fires off too early every now and then. And that is where I feel that palpitation happening. And that can be caused by a number of things, and they are just making sure it's nothing like with the scan and the Holter monitor, just making sure it's not anything structural or anything other than possibly just stress and anxiety, which I still find odd because I've never had a point in my adult life where I haven't been super anxious and super stressed. So I don't know why now all of a sudden it would be causing an issue. Um, there is a possibility. I've always said that I suspect I had COVID in March or April of 2020, just right when it became a thing, because I got really sick for a week and was having like my O2 was going down just a little bit, and I had tested and it was negative, but it was very early on, and with the test and everything, and had, was coughing and having croupiness in my chest that I haven't had that kind of illness in well over a decade. And, the palpitations started right after that. And so part of me wonders if it was just a complication from having COVID at some point. But I can't say that for sure because I never got a positive test. But it did seem quite odd that I had this very suspect illness out of nowhere. And I felt bad, don't get me wrong, but at that time, I think I was even starting to wear masks. I was wearing masks before it was cool. But no, my paranoid butt had already been seeing the writing on the wall and was limiting where I was going and stuff. But I'd had to go to St. Thomas in Nashville a couple times because my mom was in the hospital. She had been getting the Watchman device, and then she had complications from a GI bleed. And so, at that point, I wonder if that's where I picked it up. And fortunately, I must have gotten a low viral load because it was bad, but not severely so. But like I said, had never had trouble with palpitations before, and they started right after that. So who knows? I think it's probably something, either a virus or something I got. And so, are we even going to have time for Beetlejuice facts? Yeah, sure. Okay. So, enough of that. Here I am using the Munyo Pastel, the white, to kind of whiten up her face a little bit. Give her that ghosty goth look. And I think I come in with an eraser too. So anyway, that's happening next Friday. So fingers crossed. The coronary scan score is a huge relief off of me. So that was part of, I think, the problem with me. What have I been doing or watching or listening to? So I mentioned a game. Steam had a lunar sale going on, and I picked up this little game called Big Farm Story, and it's like a version of Stardew Valley, but it's like 3D. Really cute little graphics and just a little farming game. Like it's a lot of fun. It's got a storyline to it, um, and I've been playing that in the evenings instead of coloring, and I've really been enjoying it. So, if you like Stardew Valley or anything like that, you probably will like this one. It's a little more, I guess, a little more cutesy, but I like that. And here we are. So, yep, this is the finished picture. Um, not I enjoyed this one just because of the theme of it and playing around with how to make it tie into the movie. It wasn't really necessarily like this was a very heavy technique picture or anything. I would have come in, with some pencil or done a little more with the background if I felt like it needed that. But for the most part, this was just a fun picture. I had fun I had a color palette to work with, and it was just trying to make it have the feeling that the film has when you watch it. And I actually feel like I did pretty darn good with it, with just a few minor exceptions. So yeah, I'm gonna keep yapping. Y'all just have to see this finished picture. Anyway, Big Farm Story, lots of fun. If you like, you get to talk to the villagers, and you have to collect stuff and farm and stuff, and it's cute. It's very cute. We have been watching the show on Netflix. It is the remake of Lost in Space, the older TV show, and I don't know why we took so darn long to watch this show. Because my dad had been raving about it forever, and we love space shows. I don't know why I waited. Maybe just because I didn't know what the original one was, and I thought it might be boring. But we finished Superstore, and we were very sad. Very funny show. Highly recommend that if you need something to laugh. Um, a lot of people compare it to The Office, but I've never been able to get into The Office. I think I've tried watching the first few episodes, and it's just very cringy. But I think it's great, and I like Parks and Rec too. So if you like those types of shows, I think you'd love Superstore. But we were looking for something else to watch, and so we picked. I want to get rid of Netflix eventually, just because they're raising the prices again, and they keep canceling all the shows I love, and it pisses me off. I will find a show and I'll love it, and they'll cancel it. And their method of show success and their plan is just ridiculous. And anyway, but there are shows on there I want to watch and finish up before we cancel that subscription for a while. And Lost in Space was one of them. So we started watching it, and let me tell y'all, that has got to be one of the best shows I've ever seen. Like seriously, I love Superstore for the humor, but I love this for like everything. If you haven't seen it, and you're not familiar with the original, um, I highly recommend it. It is only 3 seasons, but it wasn't Netflix that did that. The people that created the show, the original plan was just to do it in 3 seasons. Like they had almost like a 3 acts in a play. They had a plan across all 3 seasons. They were telling the story of the Robinson family, and I'm telling y'all, it's great. Like even I don't know, it just hits all the right buttons. There's action. I haven't been much in the yeah, drama stuff lately, just because life's been drama, and you generally want to watch stuff to escape. But the drama in this has been fun. The characters are great. The actors and actresses are fantastic. As usual, when I looked online, the reviews apparently for the first season weren't as good and I don't know why, because we were hooked from the start. And my husband, it's very hard to get him interested in anything that's not Star Trek, Star Wars, or like a really good comedy. And he's like me. He actually stops what he's doing to watch this show, and that's saying something. But it is great, and I'll be sad. We're on the third season. I'll be sad when it's over, but like I get it. This show doesn't have a lot of extra. So a lot of shows that do spread out to 6, 7, 8 seasons have a lot of filler episodes, that just aren't as entertaining, and it's just like that you can tell that we're just all kind of waiting around and they were putting in an extra episode for that purpose. But it's like every scene in the show feels thought out and part of the bigger plan, and it doesn't feel like filler. And I guess that's what happens then when you have a show you only have a limited amount of time with. You make sure it's quality, and it is. I love the characters. The reactions I have. It's like even after 2 seasons of a show with just 10 episodes, like I care about these characters more than I normally would. It's great. I really recommend it. If you love like what am I trying like warm family type shows, if you love science, and that's not us, but we like this one. If you like space exploration, if you like robots, um, yeah, I really do. I recommend the show if you haven't seen it and you happen to have Netflix. So we also finally watched the new Matrix movie on HBO Max because we ended up subscribing there. We had to cancel our stars because we were working through Ash versus Evil Dead. And I loved Ash versus Evil Dead, and I loved Superstore, but I gotta say, Lost in Space is like up there in top tier in terms of shows I have seen ever. I just think is that good. But we watched the new Matrix movie, which again everybody seemed to downplay because people just don't seem to like anything anymore. No offense, but if it's not a superhero or a comic book movie or TV show, everybody seems to hate it. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. We've seen so many good stuff. We don't watch a ton of stuff, but the stuff we've seen's been really good. And every time I go online to look at the trivia and stuff, because I'm a nerd, um, I always see these like reviews bombing it, and I'm like, what? Just I think people are just grumpy and mad, and nothing is satisfying any of us. So anyway, I like the new Matrix movie. It's not as good as the original Matrix, but it is better than the other two in the original trilogy. Like I would put that one behind the original Matrix, and then the other two. I joke that those two never existed, so that's how bad I think those are. But the original Matrix is again on that list of top tier stuff for us. So, but I enjoyed it. I don't know why people diss it so much. I don't know why people are like, "Why are you doing a remake of a this movie didn't need any more in the series or something?" And then they're like, "But we didn't watch it because we went and watched the 20th Spider-Man movie that's ever come out in a row, the same story." Probably not. I know I've offended somebody, I'm sure, but it just the irony of that statement just blows my mind. Been listening to audiobooks, mostly lit RPG. The new Dungeon Crawler Carl book comes out February 28th. I again just here lately I have found if I had a list of things like when I am old and I barely remember things, and like if people would just play around me, like I'm starting to cultivate a list, and I think the Dungeon Crawler Carl audiobooks are on there too. But the regular book comes out February 28th, and it is apparently a monster of a book. So I got to get all my coloring done for the month before that book comes out, because there will be no coloring happening when that book comes out. I hate to say it, but that is on my list. Um, but yeah, that's been pretty much it. I hopefully sound a little better than I have the last few weeks. I'm still in a pretty big funk, but my sleep finally sorted itself out about the middle of last week. That has made a huge difference in my mood. I have felt a little better. It's still don't feel normal, but I'm getting closer. Like if I have another week like I've had the last few days, I think I think I'll be in a lot better mindset next weekend. So let's all cross our fingers and hope that continues to be the case. I think that's pretty much it. We are going to do some Beetlejuice facts. I know this is really running over, but I wanted to do this because I said I was going to. Uh, so again, I'm a big facts nerd on when it comes to movies and TV shows. I always have to go look at trivia when I get done with the show. I can't do it during because I'm going to get spoiled, but I went and looked at some of the trivia for Beetlejuice. And actually, I've not seen this movie in a while, so that may be something I watch today. So apparently, Beetlejuice is Michael Keaton's favorite film of his own. The studio originally wanted to call the film House Ghosts. As a joke, Tim Burton suggested the name Scared Sheetless and was horrified when the studio actually considered using it. Do you know how bad I wish they had actually went with that one? I love it, actually. Speaking of Netflix, Beetlejuice was the first DVD sent out by Netflix in 1998. Yes, children, gather round while grandmother tells you about the time that Netflix actually delivered DVDs through your mailbox. And you're all like, sure, Grandma, let's go put you to bed. But no, they really did. And apparently that was the first DVD they sent out when they started in 98. Michael Keaton ad-libbed 90% of his lines. When Glenn Shaddix, the guy that plays Otho, died in September 2010, the last song performed at his memorial service was Day-O, the Banana Boat song, which was used in the dinner party scene from the movie. They are actually still talking about a sequel. Speaking of sequels to old movies, by the way, they originally had plans that was going to be Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. And Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder had both signed on to reprise their roles. Tim Burton lost interest in the project, though, because of Batman Returns. However, as of, I guess, 2017, they had brought on a new writer. Like, they're still trying to get a concept into production, so who knows? The title character is named for a bright red star in the constellation of Orion, which is apparently pronounced Beetlejuice. Tim Burton originally wanted Sammy Davis Jr. to play the role of Beetlejuice, but studio executives didn't like that idea at all. Let's see. It took a lot of time to convince cast members to sign, but as they thought the script was too weird. Geena Davis was the only cast member who commit to the project at first, which I love because I adore Geena Davis. Actually, the other movie-based page I'm going to do at some point, probably in the spring, is based off a movie she's in as well. So I find that actually kind of funny. Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, and Catherine O'Hara all said no, and Sylvia Sidney, who plays Juno, all said no at least once. But apparently, once Keaton signed on, Burton called and begged Sidney, and she finally she finally agreed. So, along with Spaceballs, Big, and Caddyshack 2, it is notable. This movie is notable for containing the F word in a film rated PG during the PG-13 era. The idea for the movie came after Poltergeist was a hit movie, but the idea of bad ghosts was flipped. Instead, the people moving into the house would be the awful ones. Michael Keaton based his performance of Beetlejuice on Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The casting, let's get to the casting here in a minute. There was an animated series that premiered 1 year after the film was released. There's like 90-something episodes of it, I think. They don't use a lot of what was in the film itself, but they do use some subtle references. And I remember the intro, but I don't remember anything else about the show. I'll have to see if I can find it. I guess Beetlejuice was a Broadway show there for a while. I've never seen Community, the TV show, but apparently they staged an elaborate but extremely subtle multi year tribute to the movie. During the first 3 seasons of the show, a character said the word Beetlejuice once a season until, just after the third season mention, an extra in a Beetlejuice Halloween costume walks by in the background. And of course, that plays on the whole if you say Beetlejuice 3 times, he shows up. So, um, considered one of the top 100 funniest American movies. A lot of interesting actresses considered for the different roles, actors and actresses. Kirstie Alley was considered for the role of Barbara, but Cheers wouldn't let her out of her contract to take the role. Sigourney Weaver, Linda Blair, Goldie Hawn, Laura Dern, and Linda Hamilton were also considered. For Beetlejuice, Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams, oh, can you imagine? Christopher Lloyd, Jim Carrey, Tim Curry, Jack Nicholson, Bill Murray, Robert De Niro, and John Cleese were all considered to play Beetlejuice. Isn't that crazy? Like, some of those, can you just imagine how different the movie would be? This is why I love figuring out who they were considering. For Lydia, it was Juliette Lewis, Diane Lane, Sarah Jessica Parker, Brooke Shields, Molly Ringwald, Jennifer Connelly, and then they finally found Winona Ryder. Alec Baldwin apparently hates the movie. Michael Keaton loves it, and Alec Baldwin does not like his performance in the movie. So, Angelica Houston was originally meant to be Delia, but she was ill and couldn't come in for filming. So that's when they brought in Catherine O'Hara. Let's see. At one point, Tim Burton considered Arnold Schwarzenegger for Beetlejuice. However, they felt that due to his reputation at the time as an action star, people wouldn't take it seriously. He approached Schwarzenegger anyway. He turned it down, though, as he was busy shooting The Running Man. And boy, that is a movie to talk about for another day. John Candy, John Goodman, and Bob Hoskins were considered for Otho. Let's see. What were some? A few others, just because these are so fun. Early drafts of the script were far less whimsical. The original script was far darker. It imagined Beetlejuice as a winged demon whose plan for the Dietzes was more about... okay, I'm not going to say that. I don't want to get this flagged. The mischief in marriage. Also, the car crash was far more gruesome. I don't want to get this flagged by YouTube, so... let's see. They originally were considering R&B stuff for kind of the whimsical lip syncing, but Catherine O'Hara is the one that considered calypso music, like Harry Belafonte's hits Deo and Jump in the Line. This did win an Oscar, by the way, in 1989 for Best Makeup. Let's see. I think everything else. Oh, apparently test audiences encouraged a happier ending for Beetlejuice. They liked Beetlejuice so much that they had to actually go back post-production and create an upbeat epilogue, which featured, well, I'm not going to say it because I don't, again, like I'm going to spoil a movie that's this old, but still. And again, just coming back around to it, they are considering a Beetlejuice sequel. Maybe, I guess, still to this day. Who knows? Wouldn't that be... Apparently Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder originally signed up for it, but I mean, now that, who knows? I guess they better decide before Michael Keaton gets too much older, you know. Alright, so that is enough of that. This is a monster of a coloring chat. I will be putting jump links in the description so you can kind of jump to, as I said, so people can jump to what they want to hear, because I know for some people these are really long, and I get that. It's hard for me to find the time to listen to a lot of coloring chats myself, so I get it. But you guys seem to enjoy when I let y'all know what's what in the crazy world of Michelle, so I don't mind doing these every couple weeks, and I always end up having more talking to talk about than I expected. So anyway, Tuesday, demo from Anamorphia. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it is for Foxy February. It's one of the, I guess, the Fox picture, or one of the Fox pictures in there. Going to be using the CR Braun watercolors, colored pencils, gelatos, shimmer paint. I think that's it. I think. Anyway, the picture turned out fantastic. I am so pleased with it. And so I think you guys will enjoy seeing the process. And then just flip through Friday, probably live stream giveaway next Saturday, unless things go awry this week. And then, yeah, we will go from there. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a good rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.